Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. We're live from Joy 99.7 FM studios here in Kokomlemle in Accra. In Kumasi, we're live on Love 99.5 FM and affiliates across Ghana, including Kekeli Radio in Ho, A1 Radio in Bogatanga, and ATL FM in Cape Coast. You can also download the My Joy online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live wherever you are. In this edition, 2 miners missing as the bodies of 9 others are retrieved from the flooded Galamsey mining pit at Bani in the Upper East region.
Looking for more people who we are told that after the bodies were identified, these 2 people have not yet been found.
A rescue team which spent nearly 48 hours pumping water out of the underground mining tunnel is racing against time to find the 2. We'll speak live with the Upper East Regional Minister. Civil Society Group One Ghana initiates class action against the AMA, NPA and GOIL to get compensation for victims of the June 3 flood and fire disaster that killed 159 Ghanaians.
I'm about to run before the fire catch me for the face. That night was horrible. And at that time, I'm
As we look back 6 years on at that disaster that claimed 159 lives, some of the recommendations by the investigative committee are yet to be implemented. Also in this bulletin, at Chimoto school mates welcome Rastafarian mate Kweku Inkrabia with loud cheers as he finally is admitted to a Chimoto school today.
The administration, and when we're going, I think before we got there were some students in their dormitories, cheering, and that was very assuring. It made us feel like Ohineba was welcomed by the students.
We also have sports.
We'll hear from Black Stars head coach Siki Akono as he expresses satisfaction at new additions made to his technical team.
And later,
disbelief and grief expressed by many at the news of his death are testimony to how people in and out of the MPP felt about him.
President Ekofado eulogizes former NPP General Secretary and CEO of Forestry Commission, Kujo Usofi Sejon, as he's buried today. We have live updates here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. This is your home of bold, fearless journalism, and this afternoon 2 miners are still missing after rescuers retrieved the bodies of 9 others from flooded Galamsey pits at Bani in the Talensi district of the Upper East region. Police confirmed that 9 of the miners trapped in the pit were pronounced dead by medics. The miners were trapped after the pit they were working in 3 nights ago was engulfed by water following heavy rains. A rescue team spent nearly 48 hours pumping water out of the underground mining tunnels trying to find those miners. Earlier, correspondent Albert Sorry brought us this update.
Looking for more people who we are told that after the bodies were identified, these 2 people have not yet been found. So as we speak, the rescue team is still trying to search the underground tunnels to see if the bodies of these 2 more people can be found. But what the police is telling us is that after the bodies were found, they did some medical checks on the bodies, and because of how long these bodies have been underground for nearly 3 days now, they've decided to let the families take the bodies home for burial. So the 9 bodies that have been found have been released to their families as we speak.
That's our Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sorry giving us that update earlier. Thankfully, we've been joined on the line by the Upper East Regional Minister Stephen Yakubu. Thank you so much for your time here on the Midday News, sir. So we know you've commissioned a committee to look into this disaster, but what more information are you getting about this particular incident, sir?
Yes, I think your correspondence is on the spot. That is very true. My understanding is that we have about 3 people still missing, and they are trying to pump completely the water out to be able to get hold of these bodies and bring them up. So that is what we are waiting now. We are working very hard to be able to get these bodies out.
Okay, so earlier we're told that 2 persons were still trapped in there, but you're giving us update that is 3 people instead that we're still looking out for. But how many exactly officially have you been told have been rescued so far?
9 bodies so far.
9 bodies. But these miners, though, do we know if they had the permit to operate legally? What exactly is their status?
Yes, it's a concession area, so they have concession to mine around there, and they have been mining there. In fact, it is just something that struck, and because of the rains, and that has caused all this. But they have their mining leases and they are mining, and it's a deep down mining. That's what they are doing.
And this mission will continue up until when?
Well, so far as I understand, hopefully today we should be able to completely recover all the bodies, and then we look forward to, as you've already been told, I've set up a committee, and we're going to look and close the place down and to be able to make sure that the committee recommendations, we're giving the committee 3 weeks to be able to come out with recommendations, and then we implement so that we don't have these problems in the near future.
We're grateful for your time. That's the Upper East Regional Minister Stephen Yakubu there giving us update on that Bani incident in the Talensi district of the Upper East region. Now, civil society group One Ghana has initiated a class action praying the court to compel the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, the National Petroleum Authority and GOIL to pay compensation to victims of the June 3 flood and fire disaster that claimed 159 lives. More on that shortly, but as we look back at the day that still brings painful memories to many Ghanaians, some of the recommendations by the Justice Isaac Dulce Committee are yet to be implemented. Here's a report put together by my colleague Elton Brobe.
What started the night before as a heavy downpour at the center of the country's capital, Kwame Nkrumah Cycle, was aggravated after a nearby fuel station exploded in the downpour, leaving an estimated 159 Ghanaians lifeless, while scores also sustained varying degrees of burns and injuries. Whilst the rain was seen as a natural occurrence, the fire, which worsened the situation, was later said to have been caused by a cigarette smoker who dropped a lighter stub into water that had oil floating on top of it. Some victims of the disaster recounts the day.
So I was opposite of police station before the incident happened. I'm about to run before the fire catch me for the face. So I had to further into water, then I had to swim in the water and wake up. Because that night was horrible.
And I sat down and I'm no move and you some panic because Naja said Namity said Mitiano, Namasasa.
Then the time the tanker blasted, then it drew me away to the other road. I didn't say anything again. They can't take me to hospital. I stayed in hospital about almost 6 months. My nose, my head, all my head is also bent.
Apart from the irreplaceable human life lost, 5 houses, including the GOIL filling station at the Kwame Nkrumah Cycle, suffered various degrees of damage valued at 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. To prevent a future occurrence of the tragedy that hit the country on June 3rd, the Disaster Committee recommended the complete dredging of the door drain, a ban on the use of plastic as carrier bags, water dispensers, and cooked food containers. It also suggested standardized training, certification, and licensing of filling stations attendants, the creation of sanitation police, compulsory fitting of all commercial vehicles with refuse baskets or bins, and equipping of disaster managers with the requisite tools to effectively handle disasters. The committee also recommended the provision of air ambulances and helicopter firefighters, which should be managed by the Ghana Air Force, and a fund to cater for the injured and deceased families.
As you may have heard in that report, the committee recommended the dredging of the Odo River. So what is the state of the basin which runs through Circle and parts of the Central Business District? My colleague Benjamin Akakbo was at the place in our report.
We find ourselves in the Odona market now, still in the Koleklote constituency. And we've already entered the period when the rains start. Very soon, from the month of June, the rains are going to be hitting hard. That is one of the major issues here. And we're going to be engaging shortly some of the market people to find out what their thoughts are about that situation and what other things bother them right here in this market. Come along with me, facing here.
We have 3 major problems we are facing here. First is by the water here. Even for this June, July, we are in headache. We are in big headache. But so far we are always accepting those kind of pressure and those kind of the problem we are in here. We always face it because it has been a dress that we wear every year. We don't worry about it. But actually, we have been complaining several times. All stations in Ghana have been here complaining up to now. You see,
every year when it rains here, get flooded. What do you see that ought to be done to avoid more flooding, more loss of property, and maybe even loss of life in future? Because the rains are already here.
The Odo River, when you go in, it's 20 feet, 21 feet down. Now you go and see if you can even measure even 3 feet of it. So at least they should come and clear it for us.
Christiana. Bia insioni to a higher say niama e de ka kese betu yeso ye gilon kra ye ntu ewie na asa de ka fro asan betu yeso.
Community by community, constituency by constituency, we're highlighting the problems of ordinary Ghanaians hanging out around the Odo River gutter. I call it a river gutter because there was a point where this was clear enough and there was even fish in here. Today, it's more of a gutter and filled with a lot of filth. We've engaged a lot of those who sell at the market and a lot of those right here who ply their trade at the bus station, the bus terminal. It is not a pleasant story. They are dreading the month of June because when it comes with the rains. And when the rains come, it can only mean one thing: flooding and disaster. Some of the very people we've interacted with will have to flee. And they're calling on government to come to their aid.
My colleague Benjamin Akapo's report there. Meanwhile, civil society group One Ghana Movement has initiated a class action against the National Petroleum Authority, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly and GOIL to seek compensation for the victims. Daniel Dazi has more of that statement.
The report of the ministerial committee that investigated the disaster attributed it to the floods, poor safety practice as the GOIL filling station, and a cigarette spark by a person who has since been identified. The floods were attributed to blockages in Accra's main storm drains, resulting from the non-desilting of the drains, as well as the building of settlements and habitation of squatters in the storm drains. All these findings can be attributed to human causes, for which there are regulatory bodies to ensure that the right statutes are enforced to prevent such disasters from occurring. Why then was no action taken to forestall this devastation? Now, the victims and the One Ghana Movement have, through their lawyers, Darko, Kelly, Delata, and Co., and A Partners at Law, commenced a class action against GOIL, the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, and the Accra Metropolitan Authority, AMA, for their complicity in the disaster.
Now, 6 years down the line, there's a ceremony to mark the day here in Accra. Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson is there. She joins us on the line with more. Mamiesi, what's happening where you are? Hello, Mamiesi.
Yes, MFI, if you can hear me. Currently, the memorial service is underway. The Municipal Chief Executive of Korle Klote, Ni Adjei, just completed his speech assuring victims of the flood and fire disaster that it is never going to happen again on his watch. He's going to ensure that every needed measure that's supposed to be taken by him to ensure that such an incident doesn't happen is what he is going to do. Earlier on, we also spoke to some victims who say that the incident is a reminder, or the anniversary is a reminder of the pain that most of them had to face during the disaster some 6 years ago. We are currently observing they are observing some form of respect for the departed souls that have left.
That's my colleague Mami Esinya Miche Thompson there. Off to Parliament now, and Deputy Minister Designate for Energy William Moreku ADU has revealed that efforts are underway to assist the Electricity Company of Ghana recover about 200 million cedis from Power Distribution Services PDS, which it later has allegedly refused to pay. Following the botched PDS ECG deal, Boku Central MP Mahama Ayariga claims PDS has to transfer the said amount, which was sitting in its account, to ECG. We can listen to him.
I do believe that yes, there are some monies in some accounts. The quantum, I've heard several figures from several directions. But what I do know, when I was in office, and I inquired because some letters came in from contractors who claimed that they were being owed money by PDS. So I took steps to find out exactly what was happening with the money. And the response I got from my contacts at PDS and the ECG were that they're yet to sit down to do some reconciliation, after which they will see their way clear as to what to do with the money. But I think it's a subject of a court thing, and the wheel of justice unfortunately tend to grind a little bit on the slow side. So that I believe it is going on. But as to when the issues will be resolved, I'm afraid I cannot sit here and say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You want us to believe that we should put the ministry back in your hands, given this your approach of doing work?
Mr. Chairman, I told the committee just a moment ago that I've heard figures from ECG, I've heard figures from PDS, my contact in PDS. And
what did ECG tell you? What figure did ECG give you, and what figures did PDS give you?
I cannot mention the figures. I cannot recall exactly the figures.
I'm told that it is $200 million.
That's what you've heard. What I heard, I don't think it is that amount.
So what amount did you hear?
I don't recall exactly the amount, and I will not sit before this committee and give a figure which may not be correct.
So can you give the figure to us before we approve you?
Yeah, which will be correct? It's simple. Just go to ECG, they tell me, go to PDS, they tell me, and I give it to the committee.
I'll take you live to the Appointments Committee sitting now, and where Joseph Opoku-Gakpo has been monitoring events there. Joseph, were the committee members convinced about his preparedness to deal with the situation?
Well, Mr. Ayarega indicated he clearly wasn't convinced with the responses. He felt that the deputy minister has very much been appraised on the issue, and he should have given more details than was necessary going forward. And the indication from the minority side is that this is an issue they intend interrogating further, although the deputy minister designate insists that the case that's in court and should be put aside for now.
And he's not the only person appearing before the committee today?
A little later today, we're expecting Deputy Minister Designate for the Finance Ministry, Abner Osei-Asare, as well as Deputy Minister Designate for the Agricultural Ministry, that's Yao Frimpong Ado, and Deputy Minister Designate for the Railway Development Ministry also appear before the committee.
That's parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM, and the Disciplinary Committee of the General Legal Council has summoned one of the spokesperson for former President Mahama, Dr. Dominic Ayene, to appear before it. It comes after alleged disparaging comments Mr. Ayene made against judges of the Apex Court. Chief Justice Enini Yeboah officially petitioned the General Legal Council to investigate comments by Dr. Ayene, which he says seeks to impugn the integrity of the Apex Court in its handling of the 2020 presidential election petition. Listen to the set comments by Dr. Dominic Ayene during the CDD's roundtable discussion on presidential election petitions.
I expected the Supreme Court, to be more faithful to legal precedent. I expected the Supreme Court, to be more open in the application of the law for purposes of holding the election management body, that is the Electoral Commission, accountable. I expected the Supreme Court to apply faithfully the rules of procedure in terms of the, adducing evidence to prove the petitioner's case and so on. What we saw was a Supreme Court that was, constantly, putting the hurdles in the way of the petitioner in terms of adducing evidence to prove the petitioner's case. And I'm sure for ordinary Ghanaians or the electorate generally, the fact that the Supreme Court judges, all 9 of them, on almost every application, was unanimous in, rejecting and dismissing the case of the petitioner was very telling in terms of the open-mindedness, of the justices as far as the petition was concerned. For me, the petition actually dampened my hopes with respect to the independence of the judiciary and its ability, to hold the Electoral Commission in particular accountable in election petitions.
You heard there, Dr. Dominic Ayeni is a former Deputy Attorney General and a member of the legal team of former President John Dramani Mahama in the 2020 presidential election. Well, we've cited a copy of that petition sent to the General Legal Counsel by the Chief Justice in Inyebwa. My colleague Parker Wilson has a copy of that. What does it say, Parker?
Well, so for this petition signed by the Judicial Secretary, Justice Cynthia Pamela Addo, and portions of it reads that Dr. Ayeni apologized profusely when he appeared before the court on the contempt charge and admitted to having made comments which are unbecoming of a lawyer of his standing and a former Deputy Attorney General. His Lordship, the Chief Justice, therefore finds his alleged disparaging comments totally unacceptable and would like you to investigate this matter further. So they attach a copy of the story we did on myjoyonline.com where we actually cited Mr. Dominic Ayeni for what he said at the CDD forum.
And you've been checking with your sources on whether Dr. Ayeni is ready to face a legal counsel.
Well, so we've checked and then we are told that indeed the legal counsel has sent an official letter to him together with the publication on myjoyonline.com. And sources say that Mr. Ayeni actually anticipated that he was going to be summoned before the Supreme Court or the General Legal Counsel after the comment. However, they say that he is ready. He believes that he has not committed any sin because in the letter to him, they did not cite any of the breaches in the Legal Profession Act or regulation. And so for him, he believes that he didn't say anything wrong and that he's ready to face them. So by next week, he's going to prepare his response and face the General Legal Counsel.
Thank you very much, Kwesi Parker Wilson. This is the Midday News. Our top stories: 3 miners missing as the bodies of 9 others are retrieved from a flooded Galamsey mining pit at Gbani in the Upper East region. We'll go for a quick break. When we return, we have sports, and then also President Akufo-Addo eulogizes former NPP General Secretary and CEO of Forestry Commission Kwadwo Owusu-Afriyie Sir John as he's buried today.
Disbelief and grief expressed by many at the news of his death are testimony to how people in and out of the MPP felt about him.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the Eastern region, we're on K-Poly Radio in Kofrodia. In the Northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, Radio 123 and Radio Justice in Tamale. And in Savannah region, we're on Inkelege FM in Bole. In the Upper East region, we're live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sonmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nandom, Radio Wa in Wa, and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrot FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thanks for your company. Let's do sports now. Hans Mensando.
And before there are confirmed reports in Japan that a Ghanaian player has contracted COVID-19. And you know the Black Meteors are in the Asian country to play against the Japanese Olympic team and the South Korean team in the 2 friendlies for the Black Meteors. And we understand that the player is not named, but reports in Japan indicates that one of the Black Meteors players has tested positive for COVID-19. Down here in Ghana, Black Stars head coach Siki Akono says he's happy with the latest appointments made to the technical team of the Black Stars. The GFA has recruited a video analyst and a second assistant in Dutchman Patrick Rivers.
A very good video analyst who is doing a good job, and that Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ethiopia, we have a way of watching them and how we can approach the game, and that is why it's also important for us to prepare very well. This, I'm grateful to the FA for within this short period of time to organize this 2 friendlies, which is very, very appropriate and good for us. And so we're moving on, believing that when the September, of course we have 2 friendlies, but the main target is to go and do well with the qualifier for the World Cup. And I think when that day, that moment comes, which is in September, we will be ready to deliver.
So that's Black Stars head coach CK Akono speaking. You seem worried for those players in Japan who have tested positive for COVID-19.
I'm surprised people are still contracting COVID, but thank you, Hans. Now, parents of Ohiniba Kwekun Krabia, one of the two Rastafarian students who were earlier denied admission by Achimoto School, say he was welcomed to loud cheers from other students, and a warm welcome from management. Today, Ohiniba Kwekun Krabia has finally been admitted to join his colleagues in the classroom. Mana Mayers, mother of Kwekun Krabia, says the reception gives her confidence that her child will have a good time as a student in Achimota in spite of all that has happened in the last 3 months.
It was their school, the day school prefect, the day students prefect, who approached us in a very warm and nice manner, told Oheneba, asked Oheneba whether, he was a day student or a brother, and he said he was a day student, and she said, okay, then you are going to be my school son, and told us that, Oheneba was welcomed, nobody was going to do anything to him, and that if he had any problem, he should just approach her. And that was very reassuring. I told him he never wants to do ICT or IT, and he said, there is no IT course, but then there's a line of programs that he can do.
That's Mana Mayers, mother of Kweku Nkrabia.
It was wonderful. I was, very elated because of the fact that we finally got to this point where he can go into the school that he wanted to go. I've been here from 5 minutes to 6, and when we got here and went to the administration hall, our building.
You had the father as well.
It's been a long day without you, my friend.
Kwajo Owusu Afriye, how do you feel? I'm humbled by this baptism of fire.
Hey, obi se the book for one trouble. Now do pa won mo na say na do dan kwa ni epe. One na be se akokoto aba no. One na be se akokoto aba no.
Comeback of John Mahama na yet threat bi amamo.
A threat.
Or a former
president. I want to leave the Forestry Commission.
Voices of former NPP General Secretary and CEO of the Forestry Commission, Kujo Owusu-Afriye, popularly known as Sir John, before he passed away. Many describe his personality as larger than life. Sir John passed away last year from a short illness, and today he's been eulogized as his family prepares to bury him later today. President Akufo-Addo, who is at the ongoing final rites in Sakra-Wono in the Ashanti region, said Sir John worked hard to ensure he won the presidency, even when many party supporters cast doubt on his ability to do so.
Make no mistake, Nana will lead MPP even if he is in a wheelchair. The date was 3rd September 2013. Kojo Owusu-Afriye was in the studios of Hello FM, making this famous statement with such utter conviction. Many were those who wondered why Sir John, as he was referred to by all, would make these comments barely 3 days after the Supreme Court handed down its controversial 5-4 verdict in the election petition of 2013. Perhaps he had seen something others had not.
Live FM's Nanayo Jima is at the funeral ceremony. He joins us with live updates. Nanayo, what's happening where you are?
Not long ago, the Seventh-day Adventist Church here at St. Tonso, where the deceased attended his church, finished or completed the memorial service for Sir John. At the moment, the pallbearers just carry the mortal remains of the former CEO of the Forestry Commission to his final resting place. For information that we have is that the final rite continues immediately after the remains of Sir John is buried.
That's my colleague Nanaya Ojima. Meanwhile, in a yet-to-be-aired interview on PM Personality Profile tomorrow, son of Sir John Yao Amwating Afriye said his family is setting up a foundation in his father's memory to support the needy. It's time for Showbiz. Mapitso Sibidi.
And in Showbiz, president of the Shatter Movement addressed his fans and the nation about some of the things that are worrying him about the entertainment industry. Let's take a listen.
I want to propose that we as music makers
and stakeholders come together to identify one genre that can be attributed to all music works coming from our parts of the world. I want to plead with musicians in Ghana to pay some more attention to the business side of the craft. Let's learn to make money with our talent. Let's invest in educating ourselves.
Hashtag Shatter Speaks has also been trending on Twitter. You can check that out. MFR.
Thank you very much, Mapito. Stories on myjoyonline.com. Police retrieve 9 bodies from Bani mining pit. Transport fares go up by 13% effective June 5. And then also no military officer has seized any gold from illegal miners. That's according to Neteo. Burning of excavators. Advocacy for non-existent rights of Galamsey reprehensible Attorney General. That and more on myjoyonline.com. Wisdom Part 9 with Pastor Mensa Otabil coming up next. Thanks for your company. I am MFR Powell.
Imagine strutting into the most